Hey everybody, Kevin Elliott here with Home Dabbler. I've been hearing from a lot of you other dabblers out there asking me questions about container gardening. How do I grow things on my porch, on my deck? And that's a wonderful thing to do. It's so much fun to do a container gardening. Also, maybe you don't have a lot of space. You don't want to grow a giant garden in your yard. You don't want that job. Or you live in a condo or an apartment and you just want to grow a few things, specifically plants that you can eat. And so I thought I would do a little video on the basics of container gardening. It is so much fun and you can do so many different things with it, you might be surprised. So the first thing I'll go over is what kind of containers do you use? What should you grow things in? What are the possibilities? The next thing is what sort of plants do best in a container garden, because some of them aren't really suited to it. Some of them thrive like crazy. And the third thing is what kind of care do they need? All right, what am I getting into here in my life? Am I going to make a big job for myself? Okay, but as you can see, this is my container garden right here on my porch. And as you can see, the possibilities are really endless. You can get some amazing variety and beauty and color right there at your front door. So the first thing is containers. Okay, so what can I grow on or what sort of pots or containers do I use? And the answer is anything that will hold dirt. Okay, will grow on your container garden. You can use just about anything. I have used just about anything in the past. But one rule of thumb I offer to people is try some variety, okay? Don't just have variety in your plants, have variety in your containers. You'll see I have these different colors, different sizes, different shapes. I even have this one I'm growing this tomato in. This is an old galvanized bucket that my daughter painted like a cow at some point. I don't know why. She went through a cow phase. And so we have a cow bucket. Now, when she got out of her cow phase, I inherited the bucket. So I thought it was cool. I knocked some holes in the bottom and now I'm growing a tomato in it. So really the sky's the limit. But the thing about that is if you have a lot of variety in your pots, it adds so much more visual interest to it as well. My sister Kelly, okay, this is a great example. She is a military wife and they move a lot. And so she has come up with, found a really neat solution. She bought these collapsible like fabric pots or containers. I had never seen these before. It's really neat. And she has a whole garden on her back porch of these collapsible pots so that when she moves, when it's time for them to go somewhere, she doesn't have to, like I would have to, pack up a whole bunch of heavy pots. She simply removes the plants, collapses these things, stacks them up, and off they go. So the possibilities are really kind of endless. Now, the next thing is, what kind of plants do well in a container garden? All right, what sort of what will thrive? Well, especially for you beginning dabblers out there, your beginning gardeners, go with herbs. Herbs are awesome, and they are really, really great for your container garden. The first thing is because you can eat them and they taste amazing. The second thing is they are not fussy. Herbs are not fussy at all, and I don't like fussy plants. I don't like fussy people, but I certainly don't like fussy plants. So here are some that I have right here in my mix. You'll notice that's a basil right there, really nice basil, scallions, a fennel, parsley, and this is a mint that we've been growing for a while. And every one of these is edible. So I can walk out my front door if I'm making spaghetti sauce, for instance, grab a few basil leaves, and I feel like I'm living in Tuscany or something, and right here out of my front porch. So the great thing about herbs, and here's the little secret, is that herbs are basically glorified weeds. Okay, think of it like this. Human beings, we wanted our food to taste better. And so we were walking through the woods or walking across the countryside, and we started tasting leaves, tasting weeds growing around. Some of them, they didn't kill us, first of all, and then they tasted good. And so we started putting them in our food. And we haven't really changed them a whole lot since then. So they have all the advantages of weeds. In other words, they're tough, they are low maintenance, and they don't want to be messed with, and they can grow in a variety of conditions, just like weeds, okay? So what you really need to know about growing herbs is only a couple of considerations. The first one is, what do you like to eat? Okay, so if you like to make spaghetti sauce, you might want to grow basil. You're going to grow some oregano. If you like mojitos, like my family does, you're going to grow mint for your mojitos. If you like Asian food, like we do, you might grow some scallions that you can use, okay? Fennel tastes like licorice. Parsley, of course, we can use it in all kinds of things. So pick things you like to eat. The other thing about herbs is you need to know how long are they supposed to live so that you don't feel like you're failing if one of your plants dies. All right. So there are three kinds of categories of herbs. The first one is annuals, like this basil over here. Okay. There are annuals, there are biennials, and there are perennials. Annuals, like that basil, only last a year, at least where I live. Now, if I were in Tuscany somewhere, maybe that thing would go longer, but it's not going to. I know that every year in the wintertime, that basil is going to die. So I know that going in. I buy a basil, I plant it, it looks beautiful like this. It comes out all lush and the pretty flowers, and I use it in my food. And then wintertime, it dies back, I get rid of it, I buy a new basil in the spring. That's an annual. So parsley is a biennial. It will grow for 2 years. This parsley right here is actually in its second year. And so I know that my friend, the parsley here, at the end of this season, is going to shrivel up and die. And there's not a thing in the world I can do about it. So if that happens to you, don't panic. Don't feel like you failed. The last kind are perennials, like that mint. That mint is growing in its, it's going into its 4th growing season, this mint. Okay, it dies, doesn't die back, but it sort of shrinks back in the wintertime every year. And then when the weather gets warm, out it comes, and we have mint again. So this thing is going to last just as long as I keep it kind of healthy. So that's a quick little tour of some of the herbs that you can grow. And as you can see, visually and taste-wise, you can do just about anything. Okay, vegetables on your herb garden. In your container garden. What kind of vegetables grow well? So you see, I have a tomato here. You can really grow lots and lots of vegetables when in your container garden. But think of it like this: grow plants that you can get enough food from one plant. Okay, so tomatoes are a great example. This one tomato, this is a cherry tomato. This thing will make hundreds of tomatoes in its lifespan. You can grow things like zucchini in a pot. You can grow squash and other sorts of things that you can get a lot of from one plant, because that's really what you're going to have in your garden. The things that don't do really well are those that require lots of plants to get a high yield. So beans, peas, that kind of thing. Okra, if you want to grow that. You have to have kind of a lot of plants to get enough food to make it worth your while. Otherwise, you're going to be frustrated. You get you get a little handful of beans out of your pot. It's just not enough. The other thing is that there are a lot of garden plants that like to run. So these are cantaloupes. Certain kinds of cucumbers, like pickling cucumbers, are vines, and they just run. And so if you don't have enough space for those plants to really stretch out and do what they want to do, then don't plant them in your container garden. Okay? So that's the basics of the containers, some of the plants that you can grow. And then what do they require? So what is the maintenance that these things require? The fact is, not a lot. That's the other great thing about container gardening, especially with herbs. Like I mentioned, they're very, very easy to maintain. Things like tomatoes, you're going to give them pretty much the fertilizer and stuff like you would out in the garden. So generally speaking, the container gardens are pretty low maintenance. The one difference though, and here's the thing you have to watch about these things, is that once you put a plant in a container, it's going to require about 3 times more water than it would if they were out in your yard somewhere in the ground itself. Because once you put this in a container, the sun is going to hit this. It's going to cook the side of this pot and dry that dirt out much faster than it ever would if it were out in your yard. So the number one problem people have with their container gardens is they dry out. Okay, they shrivel up and dry out. So make sure you give it a lot of water. Have a water source nearby. The other thing that you must consider, and this is really unique to porches and back decks and that kind of thing, is something called microclimates. Okay, container gardening in small spaces, you have to really watch out for microclimates. Here's what a microclimate is. So, for instance, in my courtyard right here, if you could see the rest of my courtyard, you would see that I have all the plants consolidated in this one corner of my courtyard. And the reason being is because, as you can see, this is the section that gets the sun in the morning. And then in the afternoon, it starts to get shade so the plants can rest. There are sections of my courtyard, like right over there, that you can't see, but right 10 feet away, that never gets sun all day long. Just the shape of my house and the way the conditions are, it's in shade all the time, and so I can't grow things there. So here's what you need to do is, wherever you want to do your little container garden, you need to go out in the morning, go out at high noon, and then go out in the afternoon and the evening. Go out several times during the day and look and see where the sun is hitting your yard. or your little space. And that will let you know where you can put your plants, okay? Otherwise, you're gonna put something in a corner that never gets the sun and it's gonna die. So microclimates are super important. The other thing about that is because this little microclimate I have here gets lots of sunshine, it also gets lots of heat. So remember, the sun is gonna cook the sides of my pot even faster. So I have to make sure that we have a lot of water. You can't see it, but there's a hose just on the other side of this, and we just walk out, reach over, and do that. So make sure you have water convenient to you at your little microclimate, okay? So that's the containers. That's some of the plants that you can grow. That's some of the basic care that you can do. And then now I want to show you actually how to plant one of these things in case you've never planted, never gotten your hands dirty that way, and you want to know how. So yesterday I bought this sweet little banana pepper. I love sweet banana peppers, and so this will grow awesome on my porch. I grow these every year, and I have a pot. This is a standard old plastic pot that I'm going to do. Okay, and so here is the medium that we use. My wife and I, we keep this. It's just some sort of, I don't know, standard dirt. It's a potting soil. Okay, don't get too worried about that. Don't overthink it. Go down, get you some nice potting soil, and you'll be fine. Okay, don't get too fussy. Now, here's the thing they started doing a few years ago with these that I really like, is that they used to come in pots like this. Okay, they would come in these little plastic pots. They started putting them in these little biodegradable containers, and it's really kind of cool because then all you do is you just cut this plastic off like this. Okay, take that off, and then you have a little biodegradable pot. So see that? You plant the whole thing. Now watch this. So get some dirt. This is the fun part. You get to play in the dirt. Put some dirt in your pot. Okay, fill it up about halfway. Put your plant in there, kind of in the middle. All right, get her where she wants to live, like that. And then simply backfill the pot, okay? Put more dirt in there. And you are container gardening, okay? It's just that simple. So then what I'll do is I'll water this thing really, really well for a while. And that pot will simply biodegrade in there. Okay, easy as that, and all of a sudden you're container gardening. So that's the basics of container gardening. It's so much fun. Give it a try. If you've never tried gardening before, it's a great place to start. If you have any questions, if you have any problems, as always, please message me through the Facebook page. I'd love to help. I'll walk you through it. And we hope to have great container porch gardens right at your front door. Have fun. Thanks.